New construction has something up its sleeve, and in this video, we're going to talk about how it is absolutely slaughtering the pre-owned housing market, why lenders by the thousands are going out of business, and the surprising way you can benefit as a result. Well, hello, I'm Wendy Pennell, and Anna Bonnie describes how sales of newly constructed homes were up 4.4% in July. She explains that even with interest rates over 7%, sales were up 31.5% from a year ago. She goes on to explain, while new home sales have been trending higher over the past year, sales of existing homes have been down. In Dallas right now, we have almost two entirely different housing markets. New construction builders have been partying all summer, while sellers of pre-owned homes are slashing prices and watching their homes sit on the market. So this begs the question, why are they seeing such a difference? Well, today I'm here to let you in on the secret. How are new construction builders snatching up more and more sales? Well, simply put, they're working around the system. When a lender loans you money to buy a house, we're talking about like through a mortgage, they really just want to be a flow through. All right, they want to lend it to you and then immediately sell that mortgage, pocketing some nice profit and avoiding risk at the same time. This is the same regardless, okay? It's with both new construction and pre-owned homes. Ben Carlson, a portfolio manager, explains it this way. He says, when you take out a mortgage, most banks don't want to keep that loan on their books, so they package a bunch of mortgages into mortgage-backed securities. And then what do they do with them? Well, they treat them kind of like a bond and they sell them. The thing is though, in order for them to sell all of these mortgages, they need to have someone who's willing to buy them. And that's where the government enters the scene. The government has two companies that guarantee they'll buy mortgages when a lender wants to sell them. Okay, their names probably familiar, Fanny Mae and Freddy Mack. And if those names do sound familiar, well, they should, because you've probably heard them mentioned on the news. Investopedia explains it this way. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are federally backed mortgage companies. Neither institution originates or services its own mortgages. Instead, they buy and guarantee mortgages issued through lenders in the secondary mortgage market. So thanks to Fannie and Freddie, a lender knows he can loan money on a home purchase and immediately sell that loan. An awesome way for them to turn a profit, right? Except there is a catch. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have rules about what they're willing to buy. Okay, now one of those rules, which by the way happens to be the one that's absolutely slaughtering pre-owned home sales right now, is the limitation on how much a seller can pay towards a buyer's closing costs. And unfortunately, both FHA and conventional loans have these limitations. Devin Bachman, the senior vice president at John Burns Research, explains it this way. She says, for loans guaranteed by Fannie and Freddie, seller contributions are limited to 3% of the mortgage principal if the buyer's down payment is less than 10% and capped at 6% when down payments exceed 10%. FHA mortgages limit seller contributions to 6% regardless of the down payment amount. I realize right now you're probably like, Wendy, please put that in English, which is fine. Okay, so here it is in a nutshell. If a buyer is using an FHA loan to buy a home, the seller can only pay up to 6% of the mortgage amount towards the buyer's closing costs. If a buyer is using a conventional loan, the seller can only pay up to 3% with a 5% down payment on the house. Okay, so why is this a problem for the pre-owned home sales market? Because that's exactly how interest rates are paid down, and these caps on percentages are seriously inhibiting a seller's ability to do this. All right, now here's an example. Let's suppose a home is for sale for $500,000 and the seller is willing to pay a buyer's interest rate down to, let's just say, like all the way down to 5%. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter how willing the seller is. Fannie Mae says he isn't allowed to. If the lender wants to sell that FHA mortgage in the secondary market, he cannot let the seller pay more than 6% of the mortgage balance. Now, this is what I want you to remember, okay? 1 point is the same as 1% of the loan. So when I throw around the word point, I'm talking about 1% of a loan. All right, that 1 point will lower an interest rate by just 1/4%. So if our seller wants to pay down our buyer's interest rate, it'll cost him 1% of the loan just to lower it 0.25%. If our seller wants to give up the whole 6% limitation to pay down the buyer's rate, that would be 6 points. Since each point is only 1/4% of the interest rate, the most he can possibly pay it down to is 1.5%. So with going rates right now at 7.25%, the most our seller can pay down the buyer's rate is to 5.75%. So basically, since Mr. Seller can't exceed the 6% limitation, thanks to Fannie Mae, Mr. Seller can't actually buy down the buyer's rate to 5%. It doesn't matter how willing he is. Well, I hear you saying that compared to 7.25%, that 5.75% sounds pretty dang good. In fact, it sounds a heck of a lot better. And you're right, okay? It does sound great. Until new construction waltzes in and offers a 4 or a 5% fixed rate mortgage. Okay, now, we all know the rules by now. So how in the heck can they offer a rate that low? Well, now are you starting to see what I mean about new construction working around the system? Okay, new construction lenders can offer reduced loans through something known as a forward commitment. And yes, it is absolutely a workaround. Devin Bachman explains forward commitment this way. All right, some builders purchase forward commitments which provide tranches of money at below market rates to originate mortgages for their buyers as an alternative to buying down the rate for the term of the mortgage. The keywords there are as an alternative. All right, now here's where the magic, or more like the slaughter for pre-owned sellers. All right, here's where the magic is for all of those new construction builders. All right, these new construction lenders are able to offer these low fixed rates without it coming from the 6% cap. Fannie Mae joins the conversation, commenting on how this is an important innovation to the forward commitment program because developers know what their costs are in advance of the permanent phase. Construction lenders and syndicators will also benefit from the added level of certainty about the construction takeout loan size and cost. In other words, new construction is working around the system and Fannie Mae is completely on board with it. So now we have these builders who can literally offer a 4% mortgage and pay a buyer's closing costs at the same time. Builders and those who can afford new construction are all celebrating together while everyone else is left out in the cold. Let's take a look at all the ways this affects pre-owned home sellers. Basically, they just can't compete with this. All right, they are not gigantic companies that can buy huge tranches of forward commitments. They're stuck in the limitations of the 3 and 6% cap. So while new construction sales have gone up over 20%, we have nothing but bad news with pre-owned homes. WFAA comments on this, okay? They explain that the RE/MAX National Housing Report, which includes primarily pre-owned homes, showed home sales in DFW down 20.8% in July compared to last year. The largest drop recorded in the metro this year and the second largest drop in the United States. So now pre-owned homes are sitting on the market much longer, which should be a good thing for those of us trying to buy pre-owned homes. But unless you're a cash buyer who's not dependent on loans at 7% interest, there's really no advantage to it. You know who else is getting killed by all this? The home mortgage industry. That's right, all of your traditional lenders out there also have to follow the cap rules just like everyone else. They are losing out to new construction builders everywhere they turn. During the 2008 housing crash, we saw hundreds of mortgage companies go bankrupt and thousands of employees being laid off. Well, fast forward to 2023 and we're seeing it happen all over again. Granted, not to as severe a degree, but it's still happening out there and it is ugly. If you check out the website, thetruthaboutmortgage.com, they have an article titled A Long List of Mortgage Layoffs, Mergers, and Closures. They describe how they first created the list in 2007 of mortgage layoffs and closing and have continued adding to it over the years. The writer Colin Robertson explains how in 2007, it was a toxic combination of sky-high home prices, zero down payments, rising mortgage rates, terrible underwriting, and unmanageable mortgage payments. All right, so tell me something we don't know, right? Then he explains, the party came to an abrupt halt when home values plummeted in nearly every metropolitan area throughout the United States. Well, everyone said this wasn't going to happen again, right? You know how we had much tighter lending guidelines and we wouldn't see the massive foreclosures again. Well, they've been right about that part so far. We haven't seen the mass foreclosures, but mortgage companies are still in a lot of trouble out there. Robertson describes how now we face yet another potential housing crisis due to lofty property values and a doubling of mortgage rates in less than a year. Despite all this, he faces it head on when he says since early 2022, mortgage layoffs have been driven by a major decrease in refinance demand and a dwindling pool of eligible home buyers thanks to significantly higher mortgage rates. Then if you scroll down on his site, you will see literally thousands of layoffs, bankruptcies, and mergers, all right? Thousands. But guess what? Mortgage companies are still sitting pretty. Yeah, our builder-owned mortgage companies. Now, Robertson doesn't point to the forward commitment as a reason mortgage companies are hurting so badly, but obviously it's a contributing factor, especially in Dallas. We can partially see this because in Dallas, landlocked cities that don't have new construction are stagnant and hurting. I mean, volume is way down, of course, because no one wants to sell. I mean, they all have those 3% interest rates on their current mortgages. Kendra Norwood comments that July housing inventory posted a 10% boost over June, but it wasn't enough to stop the slide in year-over-year home sales. She continues, there just isn't any inventory. And those very few homes that are actually on the market are sitting for a long time. Again, they cannot compete against new construction. Meanwhile, the cities with new construction are growing extremely fast. I mean, people relocating to Dallas are all gravitating towards new construction, right? And who can blame them? I mean, as it is, new construction is all new and shiny, which is awesome. But then when you factor in those forward commitments and interest rates at 4%, it becomes a total no-brainer. We're finding numerous buyers putting up with longer commutes to get a new home in their price range that they can afford. I mean, moving past the COVID shutdown, nowadays a lot of buyers are returning to the office as hybrid workers. A few days in the office, a few days working from home. Unfortunately for them, that's a tough thing to do in Dallas right now. Many of our buyers, they start off by saying, Wendy, I want to be close to my job since I'm having to go to the office again. All right, we're talking places like Plano, Addison, Richardson, even close to downtown Dallas. Then the home search begins and they see just how little there is to offer in their price range and how much more their monthly payment will be. Sure, they don't want a long commute, but they end up with very little choice about it. If you want affordable new construction, you've got to look further out from the city. It's these outlying cities and suburbs that are growing really fast right now. Okay, well now that we're all caught up, we've got a bit of a moral and economic dilemma on our hands, don't we? While we don't want to encourage the continued slaughtering of the pre-owned housing market, all of these fixed interest rates cannot be ignored. A 5% interest rate on a shiny new constructed home is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, we're talking about a difference of at least several $100s in your mortgage payment every month. I mean, let's just say you've got your eye on a $300,000 house. At a 7% interest rate, your mortgage payment would be $1,996 per month. But at a 5% interest rate, that same mortgage drops to $1,610 per month. All right, we're talking a difference of $386 a month. Now keep in mind, if you're going to take advantage of this opportunity, there is a right and wrong way to go about it. You need to watch for the lenders who are specifically offering a forward commitment. If they just say they'll give you a cash allowance to pay down your rate, that is not the same thing. All right, that's no different than a pre-owned home seller paying down your rate. They will be subject to those 3% and 6% limitations. For example, Meritage Homes is offering $25,000 towards your closing costs as a price buy down right now. I mean, that sounds great. But then you realize you're limited by that 3% and 6%. Some lenders are offering variable rate buy downs, where you'll have a lower rate the first year, but it'll eventually adjust up to a higher rate. Those offer a good opportunity if you absolutely know your income will increase. But I will warn you, don't use those based on the assumption that interest rates will go down. We don't know that they will. Even experts are confused at just how high interest rates have continued decline. Economist Mr. Yun shares on the topic. He says the rationality and economic logic says the rate should be lower, yet here we are with 7.25% interest rates. Instead, what we want to be looking for is lenders that are doing the forward commitment. Right now, as of the time of this recording, D.R. Horton is offering a 3.99% mortgage for the first year and a 4.99% mortgage for all the years after that. Starlight Homes is offering a 4.99% fixed rate mortgage. Centex is offering 5.25% fixed rate at some communities, and there are just many, many more. Okay, so just keep in mind what you're looking for is the forward commitment, because then they can also still pay your closing costs. Okay, we're talking about a double win here. While we know for the most part new construction is absolutely killing the existing home sales market in Dallas, pre-owned homes still have one play in their pocket. There is one way the pre-owned market can still beat new construction with lower interest rates, and that's through assumable loans. And yes, they're no fairy tale, okay? They absolutely do exist. In fact, I did an entire video about them that you may want to watch right here. In the meantime, Wendy out.